You open your bank app, look at your balance, and for a second, you let yourself think it. What if I just didn't have to go back? What if this number, whatever is right now, could somehow be enough? Most people brush that thought away. They call it unrealistic. They go make coffee and check their work email and never do the actual math. Today we're doing the math. And I think the answer is going to surprise you, not because it's smaller than you think, but because the way most people calculate is completely wrong. My name is Alex, and I've spent years studying how ordinary people actually reach financial independence. Not the ones who sold startups, not the ones who inherited money, the ones who figured out a number, built toward it quietly, and one day just stopped needing a paycheck. If that sounds like something you want to understand, hit subscribe. Because this channel is about the real mechanics of money, not the fantasy version. All right, let's talk about the number. You probably heard of the 4% rule. It's the most common answer to this question. The idea is simple. If you have a portfolio of investments, you can withdraw 4% of it every year and theoretically never run out of money. So if you need $50,000 a year to live, you divide that by 0.04, and you get $1,250,000. That's your number, at least according to the classic formula. And look, this rule isn't wrong. It came from real research. The Trinity study, published in 1998, looked at historical market data going back decades and found that a 4% withdrawal rate survived almost every 30-year retirement window in history, even through the Great Depression, even through the stagflation of the 70s, even through multiple crashes. So the 4% rule works. But here's what most people don't realize. It was designed for a 65-year-old retiree with a 30-year window, not for a 35-year-old who wants to stop working for the next 50 or 60 years. That's a completely different problem. And if you apply the wrong formula to the right dream, you're going to get a number that feels safe but actually isn't. So let's build a better version. If you're planning for a longer runway, most financial researchers now suggest dropping that withdrawal rate to 3.3 or 3.5%. That adds a significant margin of safety for sequences of bad returns early on, which is actually the biggest risk nobody talks about. Here's how that changes your number. If you need $50,000 a year, at 3.5% you need $1,430,000. At 3%, you need $1,667,000. That's almost $400,000 more than the basic formula suggests. And the reason matters. If you retire early and the market drops hard in your first 3 years, you're selling assets at the worst possible time to cover your living costs. That early damage compounds in reverse. It's called sequence of returns risk. And it's the reason people who retired in 2000 and 2008 often had to go back to work even with what looked like enough money. The solution isn't to save more forever. The solution is to understand your actual window and pick a withdrawal rate that matches it. Now, here's where it gets personal. Because the real question isn't what the formula says. The real question is, what does your life actually cost? And most people have absolutely no idea. I'm not talking about your rent and your groceries. I'm talking about the full picture. The irregular expenses. The car repair you weren't expecting. The wedding you have to attend across the country. The dental work that insurance doesn't cover. Studies on actual spending patterns show that people consistently underestimate their annual spending by 15 to 20%, which means if you think you live on $40,000 a year, you probably actually spend somewhere between $46,000 and $48,000. That gap is not small. Over 30 years of retirement, underestimating your spending by $8,000 a year means you're working with $240,000 less than you actually need. So before you calculate your number, track your real spending for 12 months, not your budgeted spending, your actual spending, every subscription, every impulse buy, every cash withdrawal you can't fully account for. That's your baseline. That's the number you run the math on. Let's also talk about the thing almost nobody includes in their calculation: healthcare. If you stop working before 65 in the United States, you lose employer-sponsored health insurance years before Medicare kicks in. The average cost of an individual health insurance plan on the open market is somewhere between $500 and $800 a month, depending on your age and state. That's $6,000 to nearly $10,000 a year in expenses that your employed self never had to think about. Add that to your annual number before you do anything else. And if you have kids or plan to or have aging parents you might need support, those numbers change again. The formula doesn't know your family. You have to tell it. Here's the psychological part most financial videos skip entirely. And this is the part that actually determines whether people reach the number or not. There's a concept called lifestyle creep, and it's quietly the reason most high earners still feel broke. As income rises, spending rises with it. Bigger apartment, nicer car, better restaurants. A vacation that used to feel like a splurge becomes a baseline. And the dangerous part is that none of these individual upgrades feel irresponsible in the moment. They feel earned. They feel normal. But each one quietly raises a floor on what you need to sustain. And that raises your number. Every single time. The people who actually reach financial independence aren't always the highest earners. They're the people who figured out what enough looks like and defended that line, not out of deprivation, out of clarity. There's a real difference between not buying something because you can't afford it and not buying something because you've already decided it doesn't change your life enough to be worth your freedom. So let's run the actual math together. Let's say you're 30 years old. You currently spend $45,000 a year. You add $8,000 for healthcare. You add a buffer of 10% for irregular expenses. Your real annual number is now approximately $58,000. At a 3.5% withdrawal rate, you need $1,657,000 invested. Let's say you currently have $20,000 saved, and you can invest $1,500 a month. At a historical average market return of 7% annually after inflation, you would reach that number in roughly 26 years. That puts you at 56 years old, not 65, 9 years earlier than the standard path, without doing anything extreme. Now, what if you increase your monthly investment to $2,500? You get there in roughly 21 years. Age 51. What if you also reduce your annual spending by $5,000 through 1 or 2 intentional lifestyle choices? Your target drops. Your timeline shortens again. This is not about suffering. It's about running the real numbers instead of guessing. Here's the final thing I want you to understand. The number is not the goal. The number is the threshold. What you're actually building toward is optionality. The ability to work because you want to, not because you have to. And something interesting happens to most people once they get within a few years of that number. The work starts to feel different. The pressure changes. You make better decisions. You stop tolerating things that drain you. You start saying yes to things that actually matter. Financial independence doesn't just change your bank account. It changes the way you move through the world. And the math, as intimidating as it looks, is actually the easy part. The hard part is believing the number is reachable before you've proven it to yourself. So here's what I want you to do this week. Write down what you actually spent last year. Not what you plan to spend, what you actually spent. Then add healthcare if it applies. Then add 10%. That's your real number. Divide it by 0.035 and write down what you get. That's your threshold, your actual target. Most people never do this exercise, which means most people are working toward a feeling instead of finish line. You just did the math. And that already puts you ahead of almost everyone. If this helped you see your own situation more clearly, hit the like button. It genuinely helps this video reach people who need to hear it. And subscribe if you want to keep going deeper into how money actually works in real life. Because next time, we're going to talk about what to actually invest in once you have a number. And the answer might be a lot simpler than you've been led to believe.